on this computer. Great. So after all of that, I'm going to describe what I'm doing. I'm going to be looking at model view controls. We can look at a simpler thing. There's lots of simpler examples we can give, but they're not as, when you hit it, you go, oh, okay. So I'm going to try to show you with model view controller, or at least graphic objects, what's going on here. So I should have everything up and running. This is, and you should see this again and again in different formats. So I have a bunch of lectures involving this. I have a preview for a 5 lecture about doing this. So I should be showing you in a bunch of different places, a bunch of videos, but this is a general place. Okay. This is a generic shape object. What is it? It does nothing. It's just the rectangular region that I drew out here, and I'm just filling it in with a gray square. Okay. Now I'm going to have different shapes. Here is me doing the same thing, but instead I have control pressed down at the same time as I'm doing this dragging. When I release it, I get a triangle. And when my mouse goes over it, it says, hey, I am inside the triangle. Change your shades, change your state, change your color, essentially. And I can move these around. Yeah, it's good. Good times. These all, by the way, this is all code given to you. But the shape, and I can move this around, the shape is doing the base shape class that I have does one thing. And the triangle class is going to do something else. So that when I call paint on this thing, I do something different. Let's have a look, hopefully, if I can move this thing down. Oh, geez, I got rid of Solution Explorer. There you go. So let me look at shape for a second. Shape.cpp. All right. There's a lot of code. I realize that. You're just going to be moving around code, by the way, in case you're wondering. This is painting the outline, that little dashed gray outline around each one of these things. I never have to redo this. Every single shape I have, no matter what kind of shape I have, can use this. It is a free function that everyone gets just for free. You got a function. Congratulations. So if I draw a circle, I get this. If I draw a square, I get this. If I draw a rhombus, I get this. Whatever kind of class I have gets this for free. I don't need to re-implement it. I know, but if I wanted to, I could. So it becomes this art form of, when I make a child class, I look at what the parent has and I say, what do I like from the parent? If I like it, I keep it. If I don't like it, I change it. So in the case of the parent class, I didn't like that big gray square. Kind of boring, right? Here is me drawing the big gray square. It's paint. It's called paint. That's fairly standard for Windows painting programs. Okay. It means to draw. That's just, it's a sort of historical reason why it's called paint. This is a handle to a device context. We'll talk about that in the lectures as well. Just means it's a pointer to the big image that I'm drawing crap onto. That's it. Okay. And I'm going to get a brush. A brush is what you paint the inside with, the color of the inside, for example. I will get, here's my original brush. I can get the original brush. So I select this new brush. It's going to be a gray brush. Okay. And I can keep the original around so I can put it back to what I had before. I'm going to make a black pen, or get a black pen. And that does the outlines around things. That gives you the outlines of things. And when I'm done with it, I'm going to set that back to the original pen afterwards. I find out the shape that I'm drawing onto, the bounding box of the shape that I have, and I call fill rectangle, which is an already made function that is given to, like, that's what the Windows painting programs and the Windows drawing classes give you. So I get to call fill rectangle, and it will draw a filled rectangle using the pen and the brush. So the inside is gray, the outside is black. Then I'm making a new rectangle. I paint the outline. Oh, what is that? That's just going to draw the outline, actually, the outside. This is going to fill the rectangle with the brush. This is going to draw the outline, the black outline around it. Then I call paint outline. And by the way, paint outline, if it's selected, draw the outline. Otherwise, do nothing. Every single one of my shapes can use this thing. And then I set everything back to what I had originally. So this gives me that big gray square. That's all it does. I get a gray brush. I get a pen, a black pen. I draw a rectangle. I'm done. Okay. That's what the rectangle shape does in Shape 2400. It's this generic shape. What is it? What kind of shape is it? It's just generic. It's a thingy thing. It's not meant to be a real thing. It's meant to be like, I've selected this region, but I don't really have a shape there. It's just, it's like saying the name of your class, your animal is animal. No, there's no such thing as an animal type animal, right? There are dogs, there are cats, but there's no animal, generic animal, right? If you said cat, though, you would assume domesticated house cat, right? Not a tiger, not a cougar. They're all kinds of cats. But when you say cat, for humans at least, we think domesticated house cat, right? So there are cases where you can have the generic thing having a name, and you can make one. And there's other cases like animal, where the generic thing, you cannot have a name. Okay, inheritance does this. So we have a function called paint, correct? Let's go to my triangle 2400. So I've already refactored this code, and that's also in your lecture notes. Okay, or in the videos. Here is triangle, which is a child class of shape. We had shape view and triangle view. I've refactored this already, but this is a child of shape view. I just re-implement it. What I had before, I just make the same function again. And what this says is, no. If you're calling this shape, if I'm calling paint, I want to use a triangle one. If it's a triangle, I'm going to use the triangles one. If it's a rectangle, I'm going to use a rectangles one. If it's a rhombus, I'm going to use a rhombuses one. Whatever kind of shape I'm doing, the child gets the priority, if you will. That's normally what we want to have happen. So if I make a child class and I re-implement that function, I get that function, the child's version of the function. Okay, here's what I'm doing with this. I'm making a black pen, fine. I get a shape brush. Okay, I draw the paint outline, I paint the outline like I did last time. And then I create a solid brush, which is a particular color, yellow in this case. And if it's not in focus, I get a white brush, right? So depending on if the thing is selected or not, I either color it yellow or I color it white. That's the reason I changed colors. Or when I rolled over it, is it in focus? As in the mouse is over top of it. Is it yellow or is it white? And then I select that brush, and let me see here. I make a triangle, 3 points essentially. And then I make a polygon with 3 points. Draw a polygon. That's an outline. And then I stop. That's it. Like there's nothing crazy. This stumped God knows how many people drawing a triangle. I could make a parallelogram. I can make whatever I want. I just have a bunch of points. I draw whatever the points are, fill it in the center. Okay. What's interesting about this is that I don't use the paint method for the shape. I use the paint method for a triangle, but I'm using where the heck is it now? I had it a second ago. Paint outline. I'm using the parent class's version of paint outline. I don't need to re-implement. I don't have to reinvent the wheel each time. I only reinvent things if the new version is better than the old version, right? This is not, if it's not broke, don't fix it. If it is broke, fix away, right? If the child class is supposed to do something different than the parent, do something different than the parent. If it's not, don't. That simple little idea, well, maybe it doesn't seem that simple, but I've been doing it too long. That simple, relatively simple idea, though, gets really complicated once you start adding layers and layers, because you have to think about, like, how does this actually, do I need to re-implement this? Do I need to redo this function? Do I need to redo this function? So for example, let's see if am I running my thing still? I think I am. All right, here we go. How should I have to figure out if I'm intersecting this triangle? So this one, when I roll over it, I know it's anywhere within this rectangular region. It selects it, right? How about this one? If I roll over this rectangular region, oh, wait, doesn't go off in there. It only goes when I go into the triangle. In this case, I'd have to re-implement the intersect method, or however I'm figuring out the intersection of a point in a triangle. Because it's not a point, this is a point in a rectangle, this is a point in a triangle. And so that's going to have to change. What color it's going to be, that has to change. If I had it animating, that would have to change. I just take what my base class does certain things, and then I layer on top of it other stuff. So if we go back to what we were talking about for the assignment, we have a media class that does certain things, right? You can get the name of the file, you can get the file path, you can get this, you can get that. Maybe you set the media name file, the path, set the name of the file, that sort of thing. But what about the other stuff? So the child class, if the child class has more data, you will need other functions on top of that. And if I need to change things around, like let's say I'm outputting all the information about that media file, well, I'm going to have to do what the parent does plus a bit more. And so I re-implement what the parent does and I add a couple extra things in there. Or I call the parent's version of that function and then do a bunch of extra stuff. So let me show you that now, as I think maybe I am getting ahead of myself by showing you these shapes. And if I try to implement a brand new kind of shape class, it's going to get a little wonky. So let's get out of this and let's see if I can get this of the project. What do we have here? Sync5, text fields. Okay, hopefully this text fields thing made a bit of sense to you guys. Let's see if we got what it does again. So we had text fields and numeric text fields. That's what we had last time. I could also make a class called short text fields, let's say. Let's see if I can get, darn it. Sorry, it's the curse of Zoom where they block things that you're doing. Okay, so let's look at what text fields had. Text field. This is just like a field you'd fill in on a web form. We have a constructor. We have some starting text that would be in the text field. We have a destructor that we may or may not need. I can set the text. I can get the text. And what I did last time around was when I called set text, I wanted it to only set the text if the text something being done was in a valid string. So it had to be a number, a series of numbers. So numeric text field, I have my constructors, my destructor, and I re-implement set text so that if I have a text field, it'll only take certain kinds of text. That's what we're trying to get across. This is a hopefully relatively simple approach to doing things, right? I have a brand new function here, but the only thing I need to re-implement each time is how to set or get my text. Let's see if I can throw in, let's see what my num text field, field tester. Okay. I've get text. Okay. That's what this parent class has. What if I'm going to follow something that I did in another class, and please unmute yourself if you have a question and I haven't answered it. Let me try something out here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do ScreamText. So text goes in perfectly fine. We actually save the text that goes in perfectly fine. But when we say get the text, instead of just returning the text like unlike this, for example, or this, or field, instead of just returning the text, I'm going to capitalize every single character. So nothing happens. The text being stored is the same. I'm just going to override the get text method and see how that works. With me so far, hopefully? Okay, so I'm going to make a brand new class. And it's going to be called Scream Text Field. So this is if you're writing anything about politics, it's really handy. You're constantly screaming. It's wonderful. Sorry. I'm
especially today.
Sorry?
Especially today.
Yeah. Well, I just came from the US. I still can't get out of my head, right? I'm still thinking like, oh my God, the sky is falling. I'm in Canada. I'm safe Canada now, but yeah, it's still hits close to home. Okay, so my parent class is TextField. I get everything for free from TextField. So if I put in a string, it handles it. We could have it short text field and make sure that the text field is not above a certain length, and then I change that. But I'm get everything I want from TextField for free. So if I do nothing at all, this is perfectly acceptable, by the way. And let's go to field tester, and I'm going to make, let's see what I can do here. I'm going to make ScreamTextField, and I'm going to need to put in ScreamTextField into this thing here too. All right. Okay, I'm going to make a Scream field, and I'm going to set the value to, hi, how are you today? Something nice and pleasant. Okay. You know, pleasant, like ScreamTextField, you would expect ScreamTextField to be. Will this take, I might have to change something around here. Hold on. And I want to set, that should, oh, I don't need the parentheses afterwards.
You're missing an R.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. That's why it's not auto-completing. All right. And I want to do set text. Great. And then I can just get rid of this. That's fine. Okay. And then I'm going to do a cout statement. Scream field was, and that I'm just for my own purposes, and get text. We know that our text field actually just, all it's going to do is return a string, right? Get text just returns a string. What I want to do is I want to all caps all of that string, if I can. I don't know how hard that's going to be, but let's find out. So this is, but I did nothing at all in here, right? We're in agreement. This thing got nothing in it. This thing, I'm making a ScreamTextField class. There's nothing in it. It is your clone, essentially. If I don't implement a new function, if I don't add new parameters, if I don't add new stuff to the class, I get the original class and nothing new. That's fine, but that's what happens if I just make a generic class again. All right, let's see how this works. And let's go up to my thing. ScreamField was, hi, how are you today? Oh, that's very nice. That's nice. Okay. Right. It doesn't do anything. That's like you, for free, you got all of those functions from TextField for free. You inherit it from TextField. My kids inherit certain characteristics from me. They both have red hair. They are, right? They inherit certain characteristics. Red hair and blue eyes. Like they had no choice in the matter. Both my wife and I, both red hair, blue eyes. Right? They inherit that from us. But that does not mean they're going to be identical to us. They're going to be different. Just when you're making your classes, you get to choose how they're different. So let's go over how my ScreamText, I'm going to re-implement the get text. I do believe it's get text. So, okay. So I'm going to re-implement this thing here, and I need to implement it. And so what I'm going to have here is, well, I'm lazy, and I'm just going to, in the class ScreamTextField, that's what that thing is saying. And this is me defining what get text does. Okay. And let's do this. So I'm going to have, so I want to get text field. Oh, I actually want, yeah. So I can actually call the parent's version of something. That's perfectly okay. So I can get the text from the parent's version of this. And this will be string to return. I did nothing so far. But now what if I want to change things around? So I got to figure out what the string class lets me do. So to return dot, and can I to caps? No, there's no to caps. Cap swap. Okay. I need to, what can I do here? What's the best way of doing things? What I might want to do is figure out, go character by character through this string and replace it with, so it would be better with an array, but let's see if I can do this. So what I want to do is find all alphabetical letters between a and lowercase z. And if it's one of those characters, I'm going to capitalize it. So I don't know if get at and at position 0, that'll give me should return a character. It's a local variable string. It's character. Okay. What would be the best way of doing that? I could convert it to an array. Can I do that actually off the top of my head? Let's do this. To return dot to array to a copy maybe. Can I copy it to a character array? That would do it. I do believe it's going to copy it to a character array. Great. Okay. So I'm going to have two. Oh boy, that's still fine. Char. I'm going to make some random buffer. The right way of doing this would be to change the string itself, like the string that I'm going to return itself, but I'm not even sure what's going to happen with that thing. Or maybe what I want to potentially do. Yeah, let's do that. Okay. So I have a character buffer and it's going to be size 200, let's say. And I'm going to say, just for the argument's sake, assert 200 is greater than to return dot length. Just be on the safe side, right? Sanity check. That thing at the end. Okay. That should do it. Okay. I just wanted a sanity check just in case. Okay. So what could I do? I could copy this to a buff. And what else does copy take? It takes in the to return dot length, and I'm going to say offset 0. Okay. So all this is going to do is other than the a underscore buff. Okay, there you go. All this is going to do is copy to return into this buffer. Why? Because I'm lazy. Me being lazy. All right. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a for loop for int I is equal to 0. Let's actually save this length here. int text len, because I don't want to call that same function over and over and over again. Why? Because I know it's going to take time. That's all. Or it potentially can. And I'm also going to use it in this for loop. All right. So I need to, for each of those characters, let's call it capture. Okay. And I'm going to, so I'm going to make a function that converts a character to a character. And so it's going to be a buff at position I is equal to this is me hacking away at something here. All this is going to do, and I might actually have there might be a character, maybe there's a function for this, str cap, something like that. But I'm going to make up a function here. All right. So this is going to capitalize what, so if I pass in a lowercase a, it becomes capital A. If I pass in a 2, it stays a 2. I just wanted something quick and dirty. It's going to keep on replacing all those characters. And then I'm going to have string to return real. I don't want to change that actually, because it's going to be a lot of copying and pasting. To return real is equal to, and then I'll put in my a buff. So essentially I copied everything over to a character buffer. I just make another string afterwards and return it. I just wanted something to get this out of the way. And I'm going to make a little helper function in my ScreamTextField. So I called it was capchar. It takes in a char to upper, and it's going to return a character. All right. And all that's going to be is right in here. Oh, let's make it in private. So public, that's public, private, meaning nobody else should even know that this function even exists. It's my function. Nobody else gets it. It's like, I don't know what a good example would be, like things that you do in private, right? Like there are certain things that you don't want other people knowing about, that you don't want people being like, oh, well, this person got an A in this exam. You don't want them to know certain things, right? Or you don't want them having access to it, being able to set your grades or set your allowance, or well, allowance is not a proper term, set what your GPA is, set what your salary is. I should have said salary. That's the proper term, right? You don't want other people controlling that. You sort of control it on your own. There are certain functions that the only person that needs to know about this function is this class. Public, though, it means anyone can call it. Fine, I want that to get the text. That seems perfectly reasonable. Okay, so I'm going to this get char thing. I'm going to go up here and char ScreamTextField and capchar, and it's going to have to take a char to, I think it was 2 upper, right? Okay. If 2 upper is greater than or equal to A, and 2 upper is less than or equal to Z, meaning it is between lowercase a and uppercase z, lowercase a and lowercase z, then I am going to just shift the value. So I'm going to return capital A. This is just me doing ASCII math in case you wonder what the hell I'm doing here. 2 upper minus A. So this is how off from A am I? Plus capital A will be, so if I go from, if it's D, D is A, B, C, D, 3 above A plus capital A plus 3 is uppercase D. Okay. I'm missing my semicolon at the end. And otherwise, I just return 2 upper. This is just a silly function. Okay. must return a value. Okay, I got to return a value. Yes, of course. Return to return real. Not red, real. And return. Okay. Let's see if that it worked. Okay. Let's see if this works. Fingers crossed. Here we go. How are you today? Oh, we got a bunch of crap afterwards. Why? Can anyone, by the way, just to wake you guys up, anyone know what happened there? They got a bunch of crap afterwards. Oh, I got an answer. I'm excited. Okay. Oh, I can explain the ASCII part. Sure. No, it is now though, Sarah. So thanks, guys. Okay. Why do I have a bunch of random crazy crap here? Does anyone remember character strings? I screwed up. Just plain as mea culpa. I screwed up here. What is going on there? How do I know I'm at the end of a character string? I have a 0 at the end. If I am using, sorry, is that what you're going to have? Okay, null, yeah. I normally use a /0, but it's exactly the same as null. Perfect. So what happened here? I copied over up to the text length. It should be the text length +1. I need that 0 character at the end. If I just put +1 in here, it should work, but then I'll do the ASCII thing. Oh, I still screwed up. That's wild. Okay. I'm going to, instead of this, I'm going to do this. A buff at position text len is equal to brute force at ignorance here. That'll work. I know it's the end of my string, so I'm going to make it work. We're going to make it work. Okay. And then I've transferred this back over and we should be good to go. Even if we don't get it right the first time. All right, there we go. I have to have a 0 at the end of an ASCII string, otherwise it doesn't work. I have this feeling that this copy thing didn't work quite as expected. That's all. Or I went one character over something weird happened. Okay, here's the ASCII thing. ASCII, what is the value of A? We can actually put a breakpoint on it. Let's have a look. All right, 2 upper is equal to H, or the value 72, right? ASCII is a number. It has to be stored as numbers in a computer. No matter what you have in there, it's stored as a number, it's stored as binary. So I can interpret it as 72, or I can interpret it as the character H. ASCII that's all it is. It's a standardized encoding for how we represent characters. So what is this? That's 97. This is 122. If the value is between 97 and 122, it is one of the lowercase characters. I know this because that's how ASCII works. It's designed to work in contiguous chunks. So between 97 and 122, those are my lowercase letters of the alphabet. If it is a lowercase letter of the alphabet, I want to make it uppercase. So if I happen to have I don't want to use lowercase h, lowercase d. Lowercase d is 97, 98, 99, 100. Lowercase d should be 100. The difference between 100 and 97 is 3. If I take 65 plus 3, I get 68. 68 is uppercase D. So it just happens that I'm making the math work for me. I get the difference from the character I have and lowercase a, and that's the same difference between the uppercase version of the character and uppercase a. So I'm cheating by saying, hey, if I know it's lowercase, I'm just going to say a plus however off I was from lowercase a. Otherwise, leave it the heck alone. Yeah, completely agree. Math was a confusing part, right? But these are the kinds of little cutesy tricks like pointer arithmetic, where people start using them all over the place and just got to get used to seeing them, which is why I expose you guys to this. I think there even is a function for doing this, but it's fast enough for me to try and do it right now. Okay, so all I've done was make it uppercase. And again, let's have a quick look at what, I can continue, can't I? Continue. And except for now my thing is, stupid Zoom. Here we go. And now it's all screaming at me. Why? Because every lowercase character got converted to an uppercase character. The text being stored is exactly the same. Nothing has changed with the text being stored. I didn't fix up set text at all. That didn't get changed at all. I only modified one function, but the child class now works radically different than the other one. I put in text, it screams at me, despite the fact that I've only changed one function. And I didn't need to change anything else. I don't have member variables, any additional member variables in ScreamTextField. I could, but I don't need to have additional member variables. I could have call it, text field concat, where every single text message that comes in, I concatenate something. I put some other weird random text field afterwards, like with the, what is it, fortune cookies, where you just say the word in bed at the end of words, no matter what it is. It's just one of those little running jokes that people have, right? So you could have that as your class, where you just tack on the word in bed at the end of every single sentence you have. Why? Because you can, I guess. So that's the kind, and then I need a member variable, which is the text I'm going to append at the end of it. So I'd have a member variable that's specific to the child class. I'd have something saying like set addition or set tacked on text or whatever I want to call it, and get tacked on text. So I have getter and setter methods for that local variable, and everything would be fine. This is inheritance. This is what inheritance is. What you may have been confused by is when we do the following. Okay, so I want to make, instead of a ScreamTextField, I'm going to change things around a little bit. So just to make it really weird for you guys, is equal to ScreamTextField. I'm going to say new ScreamTextField. And I'm going to say text field. If it's a ScreamTextField, it is a text field. Just like if my children are Sprags, whether they want to be or not, right? They're my children. They have my name. If you are inheriting from whatever the parent class is, you automatically are a member of that parent class. You can consider these like a subset of the parent class. So every ScreamTextField is a text field. More specifically, it's an instance of ScreamTextField, but it's also a text field, the general case. So every domesticated house cat is a member of the feline family. It works just like genetic inheritance, right? Every type of we are a type of great ape. We're a sub part of the apes, but we are a member of the great apes. Wolves are a particular kind of canine, right? That's what we're talking about here. So I'm saying this ScreamTextField, I'm going to make a brand new ScreamTextField. I'm going to call new. And so let's also call delete afterwards, because I want to make sure I delete it just in case. Delete ScreamField. Okay. But fact of the matter is, this thing here, oh wait, I may have, can I do this? Something's wrong here. What is wrong with this? Oh, because it's not it's a pointer now. All right. And pointer. Great. Now let's see this in action. Nothing's changed other than calling new and getting a pointer to an object. I'm making a ScreamTextField in both cases. Not a thing has changed. Let's have a look. And we're right back to lowercase. What? because when I call set text, or actually not set text, get text right here, it thinks it's just a text field. Based on what the pointer is, it says it's a pointer to a text field. What kind of text field? I don't care. It's a text field. And because you don't know what kind of text field, you just get the generic version of that, function. You get the text fields version of that function. You don't get ScreamText versions of that function. You get text fields version of that function. So either I could cast it and say, no, 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 it's a ScreamText field. That would work. Or I need polymorphism. That's the other piece of the puzzle, the thing we were just dealing with recently. So here's where polymorphism would come in. Okay, it's going to be a lot of work here. Okay, we're done. That's it. It is saying, when I put the word virtual there, it says, no, 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 don't be there. When someone calls this function, don't just take the first thing that comes along, go look it up on the virtual table. You got a lookup table saying where the function definition is based on the object that you have in your hand, not based on the pointer, but based on the object. So you might be pointing to, this pointer might be a text field pointer, right? It's a pointer to a text field, but don't rely on that. Go to the virtual table and see what kind of object it really is. So depending on this is a runtime polymorphism. This is depending on what the object is, I'm going to call the correct function. Okay. All right, and let's see it in action. And there we go. We're right back. That was it. That's polymorphism. That screws up everybody, despite the fact and you could say, why don't you just put virtual everywhere? Well, you technically could, but it's not going to do you any good. If you put virtual everywhere and you don't know that needs to be virtual, somebody else comes along and just, implements something a different way. You don't know how this thing is going to work, right? If one of the people using your child class, one of the child classes does things in a different way, but you don't want them to be calling that version of the function, you really don't have a say in the matter. Making it virtual means you're saying, I'm expecting the child class to have a different version of this function call. So when you call it, call this other one. Don't call my thing by general. So when I use virtual, you don't have to cast it as a ScreamText. That's exactly right. If I casted it to ScreamText, it goes, oh, it's a ScreamText pointer. Oh, that's fine, right? And it's a big pain in the ass. You have to go plopping those casting everywhere. More importantly, you then now have to know how it's being done. I don't want to know what kind of shape I'm painting. I just want to call paint on all of my shapes. None of my code for that earlier example when we were painting, I just have a bunch of shapes. I just call paint on all of them. I don't care what it is. I really don't. I just want to just call paint, 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 paint. And so the virtual method means I call the right thing. It's just in time lookup essentially for what one to call. Nice. All right. I hear a bunch of screaming from my kids downstairs. So let's see what other questions you guys have. I also go along with you guys every single time, and I don't want to take up all your time if I don't have to. So let's see what other kind of questions you guys have. Is this making some sense, or this entire week was meant to be slow down again, review things again? Because I knew last term, I blew through objects and stuff and then had extra time at the end of term. I'm like, no. You need the time to sort of digest objects. Make a couple of these things. Make your own object class, see what it does. Make a child class of it. Make, so like our text field, or make a special kind of number. That would be fine, right? Make something that is a dynamic array, and then it's a dynamic array that only takes certain numbers. You can sort of make up your own, just make up your own little puzzle and implement it. Because I know you have all the time in the world and you have no other classes to do other than my own. Yeah, of course. But if you want practice, there's lots of places to practice. That's what the zombie class was. I know it's a lot of stuff to have implemented, but the point is you could play with it whatever way you want. You want to make a vampire? Great. You want to make a zombie? Great. Lich? Fine. right? Whatever you want to have for an enemy, make it. And how is it different from a normal zombie? Well, a lich casts spells and can do a ranged attack. Or a wraith, yes, I play a lot of D&D with my kids right now. A wraith can go through walls, or a wraith as a draining touch, for example, right? Whatever works for you. You're just coming up with, it's meant to just give you a scaffolding to play with an idea of, I have undead, and then the child classes of undead might be zombie or vampire or lich. And of the zombies, I can have a child class of zombie, which is a zombie 28, which is a fast running zombie. Or I could have a zombie class from Plants vs. Zombies or something like that, right? I could have a zombie class based off of what is another good zombie movie that is the zombies from Dead Alive, Peter Jackson's zombie film, right? COD. Campbell, you'll have to explain what I'm seeing. COD. It's the Newfoundlander in me, perhaps. Call of Duty Zombies. Okay. Yeah, very different game than COD. That's a first-person shooter from Newfoundland. Call of Duty Zombies. Okay. Yeah. So Call of Duty Zombies. There's something special about Call of Duty Zombies, or are they just normal zombies? Left 4 Dead, different kind of zombies, right? Now, most zombies relatively slow moving, but they're all various ways of doing zombies. And some are fast moving, some are really, really dead. Some need to have their brain smashed in, some required beheading, or whatever the case is. Right? That's sort of the point. You can play with it whatever you want. You can do Night of the Living Dead. They eat flesh. They don't eat brain. No, they eat brains, but not flesh. Right? That's what. Anyways, every one of them is going to be a little bit different. Have fun with it. Right? If there's something special about a zombie movie game that you play, use that one. That's great, because it teaches you what the difference is between the parent class and the child class, and how you can twist it just a little bit to make your new version of a class with doing barely any extra work. That's what the game is. It's really hard to do. That's why I can't say like, oh, you do it exactly this way. It requires practice, just playing around with how to leverage what you've already done and just tweak it just enough to get something powerful and new out of it. And that just takes practice and practice and practice. So your job is to make it to be as lazy as possible, as efficiently lazy as possible. So you want to write as little code as possible while still solving the problem and not having to go back and fix your code later. Efficiently lazy. And if you can be that, I can't complain at all. Efficiently lazy is what we're trying to teach you. Bare minimum amount of work so you can do nothing else, right? That's what we're trying to, right? We're trying to make you do work now so that you can be lazy later as well. Okay. Does anybody have any additional questions now that I've told you all to be lazy as possible?
This is kind of the opposite of that. I probably wouldn't have even the time to do this, but how difficult do you think it would be to use code like you used today with the drawing stuff on the thing to like draw a grid?
To draw the grid?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the reason I love doing that. You can tell what my background is. I used to be a front end developer, right? So I love that sort of thing. Although it can be a pain in the ass for a lot of people. A lot of people learn to hate it because there's a lot of fiddly diddly stuff. Drawing a grid and putting your zombie on there, or drawing a circle on there. I don't always think it's that hard, but it's actually probably pretty hard. Drawing a grid using printf statements or cout statements is a lot easier, especially for just cranking something out. So I had a
I'm
function.
sure that's a reason why text-based games took off long before they started getting graphics.
Also, the computational overhead of text of graphics was prohibitive, right? A GUI, you could not actually do Windows 3.1.1 way back in the day when DOS was at its peak, right? You couldn't do it. They had to do all sorts of little hacks to get it off the ground. These things off the ground. Nowadays, it's easier, but yeah, drawing and doing all these trying to paint programs. There's still probably at least 2 to 3 times the amount of code to do drawing something on the screen compared to just ASCII or like text on console, but I like it more because it's easier to read and you don't get this like scrolling off the screen crap. Um, so yeah, I mean, if you could do it, that would be fantastic, but it's not. I'm afraid of it being prohibitive for. So if people are wanting to try it out, I'm all for it, but I don't want people feeling like they need to do it in order to feel like they succeeded, because it's not part of the critical path that you have for this class. And I know you have other classes at Algonquin that are taking up all your time.
Yeah, I figured there's a pretty good chance that I won't do this, but I naturally curious, I guess, because games is kind of why I'm in this program. So this is a good opportunity to like actually do that for the first time, really.
I'm a huge fan of, if there's something that you're passionate enough about to try it out, that's where the best learning comes in. It's not what I tell you to do, it's what you do on your own. That's where it sticks. It's amazingly more effective than what I tell you to do. The only difference is you also don't want to scare off half the class or more than half the class, like I did the very first assignment, by making it too challenging. You know what I mean? So absolutely go for it. In fact, I strongly recommend a lot of all the IMD people. That's your wheelhouse, man. Like that's what separates you from an artiste or from someone that draws and is a graphic designer. There's a million one graphic designers, a million one artists out there. There's not many people that can program and do the artistic side of things, or even have at least an appreciation for the artistic side of things, especially for game design. And so people that like doing that are really rare. Front end developers are actually surprisingly rare because you need to have that little mix of skill sets. And most people I know that program would rather punch themselves in the face than actually do GUI design, because it's finicky, and they like you cannot prove it works. You can prove your back end code works, you cannot prove your front end code works. So absolutely, if you want to do it, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I actually hear that there aren't a lot of good um
Front end developers.
yeah, there's a UX, that's user experience. That's
UX people, though, they can come from like psychology and a bunch of other things. If you do UX and can code, or at least speak to programmers, that also makes
yeah.
you rare, right? Anything where it's like they need that unicorn is extremely hard to find. Um, a lot of people will learn both, but they come from one of the schools and they sort of, they either come from programming like I did, like computer science, like I did, and learn UX, or they come from like psychology and then move to computer science. But most people, follow one way or the other. They don't just sort of land in the middle like you guys are going to be doing. So um, find sort of leaning into what makes your program special. I'm a big fan of it, at least. So
Yeah, that was I came from visual arts background. I did a little bit of programming before I went to a certificate 1-year program for art stuff. It was a very small amount of programming. I did stuff in Greenfoot, which is Java based. So
okay, but what
um
makes you so if you're looking at an art program, for example, what separates you from every other artist? Because every other artist, and it's a hard job. My sister's an artist, is a fine artist. She teaches at NASCAD now, but it's a hard life because it's hard to prove that one thing is, it's hard to prove that they're impossibly hard to find. First of all, programmers, you can easily say one's a good programmer versus a bad programmer. It's hard to say fantastic artist versus not fantastic. People have a rough feeling of it, but they don't demand the kind of salaries that a programmer does. And so if you can combine it, yeah, because I've met more than enough charlatans that are faking UX knowledge when they don't actually know it. Uh, I'm all for being able to do both. Nice. Okay. Are there additional questions? I love giving advice, although many of you may not care about my advice on this, but it's what I do. Does anyone have any other questions about inheritance, polymorphism, objects in general, we're about to touch on to model view Microsoft Foundation classes, which I hate. Sorry, I just straight up hate because it's finicky. I think it's fine, but it's finicky. But all the programmers last term were like, "Yeah, it's awesome." Oh, okay. And then I get model view controllers. I get excited, and then I go, "Oh my god, it's a lot of code." Um, so hopefully you guys will like MFC more than I do. What kind of C skills are used often by people who want to be in animation or create their own graphics? Would it be classified? Probably, yeah. If you're doing graphics, if you were in the net program, if you were in OSS, you could say like, okay, you may not do that many objects. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. If it's something that you're seeing, it's always objects, just as a general rule. And so C++, Unity is based on C sharp, right?
C
Blanking
sharp,
on,
yes.
yeah.
For scripting, and I think C++ for there was something else that they use C++ for,
Okay.
but it's mostly C sharp, I think.
Yeah, but there is David Tui's class is used. It's a C++. Unity is actually using C++. All the graphics in Unity, not Unity, Unreal. All Unreal programming is
Oh, okay.
C++,
I
right?
don't know very much about Unreal.
I don't know it necessarily either, but it's there, right? C++ is still the go-to for most game development, for example, because it's fast as hell. And even if you don't do game development and you're doing front-end stuff for like animation or you're doing some kind of scripting thing, even if you're using Java, even if you're doing Android, it's all based around the same building blocks. Android development looks remarkably like C++ GUI design.
I've noticed actually that I think we're supposed to be using Unity later in IMD, and I've noticed that more and more indie and even AA studios are using Unity. Not so much AAA studios because they just make their own engines, but
Yeah, because that's used to be the big bottleneck. We made our own engine at Kutoka, and 2 years of the head developer developing the engine while we're also developing the game at the same time. It's a little nerve wracking, and it's also hard to get around it. So if you have something that's polished and built and ready to go, it cuts off a lot of your time. So I mean, I have friends, I have sort of former students that built entire games during a hackathon. If you, I think it's Pigeon. Oh, what the hell is it called? Pigeon Messenger. There's a great YouTube video on it. It's a VR game where you pick up a pigeon and you chuck it at far away lands as a message. That's the game, right? Whipping pigeons at people. He did it in 2 days. Like, it got huge buzz as a result. It's because it's awesome and weird. And you can do that if you know Unity. You can't do that if you had to build your game engine yourself. Okay, export part of the assignment. Do we have an export part of the assignment? Yes, I think I do. So did I actually ask for the exporting, or I know I did the exporting because that's how I actually generated that for you guys. I made a bunch of classes, filled in the variables, exported it. The exporting, it's for, you can export it to a different file, and if you export it and the exporting is just say tab delimited, if it looks identical to the original file, you did everything right because you read it in the file, you exported it, and it's generating the exact same thing. It means that everything has to line up exactly right. You don't didn't run out of buffer space, you didn't forget a field, that sort of thing. So, but all you need to do for the exporting is if you have a toString function, I think, which we have, that just produces a string, right? And then you output to a text file that string. So I do believe if you have a file stream and then you do the double arrows like the cout does, you have a file stream that's open, an output file stream that's open, an O stream that's open, and those double arrow things, the double chevrons, and you have a text string, just a string in there, it'll just put that in the file. So it's a relatively easy way. You don't have to know if you're doing outputting to the console or outputting to a text file. It's the same thing for your objects. Your objects just say, I'm going to give you a string. Do with whatever you want. that's why we do it that way. So the objects themselves don't need to know about that you're outputting it to a file or outputting it to the console. It just returns a string, and then you can take that string and do with what you want. You can output it to the window or output it to a text file, if that makes sense. All right. Nice. Other questions? Is the assignment seeming to make sense? I was hoping for keeping it fairly easy, but still enough that you can really get creative with it. So you can be as creative as you want with this thing. That's sort of the point. You can make whatever kind of media that you want and then see what you can do with it. Maybe you can even use it for yourself if you wanted to. I'm not getting any other comments though from people. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you guys go. Ping me if you have any questions or any other comments. We will be revisiting model view controllers very, very soon. Ask questions because I want to make sure that you're feeling comfortable with objects. Don't just sort of sit there in silence, right? If it doesn't make sense, ask away because this is the time to actually clarify things. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a great day, guys. Stay sane with this whole US election thing.